I feel like with the amount of gender equality I just experienced in the Most Notorious Talker episode 2, Cosma in his isekai world is just incredibly proud of Noelle. I figured our MC was going to be a little edgy. Like, I got the impression that we would have a bit of an edge to him. I didn't realize how edgy, but this is beautiful edge. So the two people in his party took the money and ran. So he grabs Walter and says, hey, I'm gonna go brutally kill them. And he doesn't end up just doing something edgy like pulling up to them, shooting them in the face, taking the money. And no, it's after the sob story of, we gambled the funds away, he not only kicks the main dude repeatedly, and he's like, I'm gonna kick you 1,000 times. And when the girl decides to speak up saying, leave him alone, he's like, I'll kick you next. And if that wasn't bad enough, the slave trader comes in and he sells them off. He gets 15 million for these two, after apparently only being offered 6 million. He blackmails the slave trader by saying, hey, if you don't want the church to know that you spent 30 million buying these people, which is obviously a lie, but if the church is saying no more extravagant spending for a bit, it would screw them. Blackmails a slave trader who's apparently his best friend to get 15 million, only gives 1 million to the people who dragged them to the exact location, beats the living shit out of the former leader, and the girl who is actually in love with our MC. Emotional breakdown. I figured Walter was gonna leave because of fear, but Walter just being like, I ain't cut out for this, I kinda have to respect. I have full live reactions to these episodes over on Patreon if you want to see my full and good thought to any of these Most Notorious Talker episodes, over there exclusively. The interesting thing about having someone who clearly can be as edgy as this MC is that I like that they didn't make him, emotionless. So he's very frustrated that Walter didn't go with him, and he's also very frustrated that the party completely fell on its face. But the idea of having an MC who's very much, if you're friend or foe, I'll respond to that 1,000 times over. Walter got a bottle of whiskey for his road trip because he respects him. He says, you know what, even if I'm not happy that you're leaving, he was honest, he didn't screw him over, and said I wasn't cut out for this. The two who stole the money, he was willing to put 6 feet under. And to be honest, I think he did something arguably a fate worse than death. Because they better hope they get sold off well, because otherwise this is not good. It's interesting because the reaction at the end, I think, does a lot for his character, that if we didn't have that frustrated look, it would have been easy to come out of this episode saying he just doesn't give a shit too much. But the idea that he was biting his tongue. He was pissed off that not only Walter was leaving, but most likely that the whole situation happened. But as he also says, as edgy as it is, like a snake shedding its skin, it's a new beginning. You look at the opening, you can definitely tell who's going to be in his party. But I appreciate the fact that for an MC who could be as ruthless as this, it's the idea that he's so calculated. He doesn't have, the room for love. He doesn't have a room for a lot of different things. But he generally is trying to build a strong party. And in doing so, he can't put blind faith that who's ever currently next to him are always gonna, be around. He's waiting for the shoe to drop. He hopes it doesn't happen, and he was hoping that these two weren't gonna be scumbags. But as soon as they revealed that they were, he had no problems basically unholstering his gun. And he has some skills, man. He has mind control, he has paralyze, and I love the idea that as he's forcing the girl to admit, like, the truth of the matter, like, yeah, you gambled with him, but it was all his fault, blah, blah, blah. She's saying, hey, you're basically breaking the law, which is funny for a criminal to say, but it's understandable. I guess it's like the forbidden words, like he could get locked in prison for using, I guess, abilities like that. Apparently it doesn't count if you're using it on criminals, which they did rob him, so therefore they're criminals. Episode 1 was a very good episode because I didn't see the betrayal initially coming until near the end. And when you get that, you're like, okay, now we're back on track with, kind of the subversions of tropes, turning your MC a little edgy. But despite this being a pure edge factor, I had a blast watching it. I would say I like the art direction and production as much as something like, say, Let This Grieving Soul Retire, but I do dig the vibe and the look of this world. And the MC, for being as much of an edgelord as he is it's the right kind of edge. Sometimes when anime fans hear about edge, they think like it's always has to be an insult. It doesn't. Edge can be good, edge can be bad, and to me this is enjoyable edge. I think this is an underappreciated show so far, maybe because episode 1 wasn't the craziest thing you've ever seen, but I think people who give episode 2 a shot might find themselves to be a little more interested, because not only do we have a fresh start with, you know, probably more interesting characters going forward, since these were just the intro characters. Though I do like what they did with Walter, and I appreciate that, you know, Walter didn't really look at our MC as being like this evil guy, just more so, I ain't cut out for this, I'm not strong enough for this lifestyle. Even if physically he is, maybe mentally he's not cut out for the way this ruthless business is. I have to respect that, and hopefully we get to see him down the line. But either way, like, you know, for an MC that could have just been like, at sunset we ride, and I'm gonna shoot them between the eyes. He kind of starts out like that, but then very quickly it becomes, I'm gonna beat you senseless, and now I'm gonna sell you off so I can get my money back. Like, savage. Savage. I expected the episode to be a little darker compared to the first, just given the betrayal, but wasn't ready for the gender equality that we were experiencing. No room for love, all business with this boy, and I guess we know how he looks at it. No matter how friendly someone is, he's always going to be ready for the shoe to drop, but as he says, if you're good to him, he will respond and match that energy. You give him a reason to doubt, he will match that energy. And Jesus, that negotiating scene, it's very rare you'll hear me say, damn, I really enjoyed that slave trading scene, but it was pretty fantastic, I ain't gonna lie. The idea of being offered 6 million, then he goes to like 12, and every time he says he's like 13, 14, 15, if you don't want me to say 30 that you sold it for, you'll do this. Very few characters can shake down a slave trader and get more than twice than what they initially offered, but apparently Noel is him. If people want to call this an edgy mess, people want to say it's nothing special, I'm not really going to try to fight people on it. All I'm going to say is this shit was damn fun. It has a decent production to it. Not my favorite of the season, but definitely not abysmal by any stretch. And I think the art direction really works when they start going edgy, especially with some of those dramatic faces. I'm 100% here for this whole thing. Thoughts down below. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course, ring that bell, and like I mentioned, full live reactions over on Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. Alright, so today we got Elias Cortez, Jose Raffo Caster, Arctic Fox, Nicole, Benjamin Zavosky, Azuro, Ava91, and we also have Nebson10. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care, and let this episode be a lesson. Pick your friends wisely. Have a good one.